Just yesterday, I published an article on LinkedIn called "Did Dreamforce 2025 Just Cancel the Salesforce Admin?" I did not expect it to blow up the way that it did. As of this recording, the article got nearly 100,000 views in about 24 hours. I've got hundreds of messages in my inbox, tons of comments, lots of DMs on every platform. Many Salesforce employees, MVPs, and Golden Hoodie winners, and even user group leaders messaged me. People said, "David, you said what we've been feeling." And honestly, that's what pushed me to record this video. Because there's a truth behind that article, one that I have not said out loud until now. And it's not just about Salesforce. It's about the parts of ourselves that we stop acknowledging when we feel unseen. And if I'm being completely honest, what I'm about to share is something that most people would never say out loud, because it is not pretty and it is not polished. And it definitely isn't the version of success that most of us like to post online. But if I've learned one thing over the last few years, it's that silence protects pain. And truth, even when it trembles, sets it free. So today, I want to tell you my story that you didn't see. The story behind the posts, behind the smiles, behind the version of me that kept showing up online and in the Salesforce community while everything inside me was falling apart. For longer than I want to admit, my personal and professional lives were miles apart. By day, I was leading Salesforce projects, coaching admins, hosting webinars, keeping everything running. I was invited by many Salesforce community groups, many large corporations, and even by Salesforce themselves to speak both in person and online around the world, sharing advice, best practices, and insights to help solve all sorts of problems, work more efficiently, and empower professionals, as well as the companies, customers, and prospects that they serve. People saw structure, stability, confidence. But behind the screen, I was coming undone. At home, every conversation felt like walking a tightrope. Every sentence seemed to land wrong. The people that I loved the most, the ones who were supposed to be my safe place, had been treating my voice like background noise. This was not a one-time sudden thing. It had been happening gradually and consistently for decades, and I kept brushing it aside. My words were dismissed, my ideas ignored, my feelings minimized. And maybe, as you're hearing me say this out loud, maybe you realize that you've been there. Or maybe I'm describing a situation that you've been struggling to acknowledge in your own life, where you find yourself showing up for everyone else while quietly disappearing into a void because the people that you consider in the highest regard make you feel worthless, always wrong, and invisible. So I did what many of us do when we feel unseen. I overcompensated. I smiled in client meetings while holding back tears. I filmed training videos between panic attacks. I taught clarity while living in confusion. I kept the lights on for everyone else while sitting in the dark myself. Then one night, after a long day of client meetings, I walked into my bedroom and it hit me. I did not recognize the person that I'd become to survive my own life. Every day, I was shrinking, adjusting, apologizing, erasing, until there was almost nothing left. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed, staring at the wall, thinking, maybe they'd all be happier if I just disappeared. That thought shook me to my core, because in that moment, I realized I had already disappeared. I was gone from my own story. And something inside me finally whispered, enough. Change did not come with fireworks. It came with quiet clarity. I could not keep living in a place that erased me. So I made the hardest decision of my life. After years of over-explaining, negotiating, begging, pleading, and even crying just to have my words and my voice heard, begging to be acknowledged by the people that I bent over backwards for decades, I chose peace, even if it meant starting over. In early October 2023, just days before the war in Israel began, I walked out of my home not knowing where I was going, only that I could not go back. I did not want to live there anymore. And when the October 7th tragedy happened in Israel, and the whole world shifted, so did I. If life could change that fast, what on earth was I waiting for? I stopped begging to be acknowledged. If my words meant nothing to certain people, then why bother sharing my voice to them at all? So, a few months later, I left the New York area. I had packed up the pieces of a life that I had outgrown, and I moved to Israel, to the land where my family's story began, so that I could finally start living mine again. Yes, I arrived to Tel Aviv in the middle of a war. Sirens, bomb shelters, uncertainty everywhere. And still, I was smiling. People would ask me, "You moved here now? During a war? Are you out of your mind?" Maybe. But for the first time in years, I was not running from chaos. I was walking toward truth. Healing didn't start with therapy or milestones. It started with silence. The kind that used to feel suffocating, but now it felt sacred. I'd wake up early, make coffee, and listen to Tel Aviv wake up. Dogs barking, buses rumbling, a neighbor singing off-key. Every sound reminded me that I was alive. Maybe you felt that way too. The first morning when the noise quiets down and you realize peace is not loud. I built some small rituals, morning walks, journaling, cooking simple meals. Structure became my therapy. I gave myself deadlines for peace instead of performance. I stopped managing my emotions like projects and started feeling them like the weather. Temporary, but real. And those small rituals taught me something that I'd forgotten in the chaos. Leadership is not about control. It's about presence. It's the same skill every Salesforce admin needs when everything breaks at once. Slowly, the static cleared. I began to hear my own voice again, the one that I'd buried under everyone else's expectations. For the first time in years, I wasn't bracing for impact. I was learning how to live again. Fast forward to last week, Dreamforce of 2025. It was my first Dreamforce in 5 years. The last time I stood in Moscone Center was 2019 as a keynote speaker. Thousands of people in the room, countless more watching online. It was Salesforce's biggest stage, and yet, at my home, my every word was being dismissed, minimized, and ridiculed. Quite the paradox. Walking into Moscone last week felt surreal. It was like stepping back into a world that kept spinning without me. Same lights, same music, same place. But I was not the same person. People stopped me in the halls. David, it's been forever. I haven't seen you in God knows how long. You look so different. You look so happy. And they were right. What they saw were the visible signs of an invisible rebuild. I wasn't just showing up this time. I was rooted. After Dreamforce, I shared my article on LinkedIn, the one that I referenced at the beginning of this video. It was just my reflection on how the word admin had quietly vanished from the keynote. And with the exception of the admin meta, which was fantastic, by the way, I was struggling to find anything or anyone mentioning admins, either visually or in presentations. My article shared how many of us felt unseen in the story that we helped to build. I did not expect what came next. The hundreds of comments, the messages, the DMs from around the world. You said what we've been seeing, what we've been feeling. You spoke the quiet part out loud. You made me feel seen again. And in that flood of recognition, I realized something powerful. Healing does not happen in isolation. It happens in reflection. When someone looks at you and says, I know that place. I've been there too. That's what the Salesforce community gave me. The Salesforce community reminded me that belonging is not about being noticed. It's about being understood. Maybe that's what we're all craving, to be valued not for what we do, but for what we carry. Here's what this journey taught me. You can automate the process, but not the purpose. You can delegate tasks, but not trust. You can engineer efficiency, but not empathy. Behind every system, every dashboard, every AI feature, there's still a human heartbeat holding it together. And that heartbeat, it matters. So, to every Salesforce admin, architect, developer, and consultant who's ever felt invisible, you are not background infrastructure. You are the pulse, the ones who quietly turn chaos into clarity. Salesforce might rename the roles. They might rebrand the titles, the features, the products, the screens. They might reinvent all of the tools. But it cannot replace the judgment, the intuition, and the humanity that you bring to the table. That is leadership. That is legacy. So when I came back to Dreamforce this year, I thought I was coming home to a community. But what I really came home to was myself. Because when you choose peace, you create possibility. When you choose truth, you rediscover belonging. And when you come home to your people, your purpose, your own voice, you remember something that technology will never understand. We were never meant to automate connection. We were meant to live it. Technology will keep evolving. Titles will keep changing. But the way that you make people feel, that's the legacy. The courage to speak, the choice to stay kind, the commitment to stay human, that's what lasts. And that's what I came back to find. So if you hear nothing else today, hear this. You are not too late. You are right on time.